That's how the Premier League sounded last night on the talkSPORT network. How good was that reporter at Fulham, Nottingham Forest? He's very good.
Oh, that's the one I thought sounded average. Who was? No, seriously. I was just thinking that. That's amazing, because I was literally thinking the same thing. I was like, that was a great package, but the Fulham one, not
yeah. He needs filling off, doesn't he?
Yeah,
awful.
that's
absolutely
funny.
Awful. Yeah, if you're listening, Scott Minto. Former Chelsea man, of course, and thanks, Mikel. And it was a difficult night again for Chelsea, wasn't it? Now, I think firstly we should say, credit to Manchester United, because I think, they were awful against Newcastle United. They really were. And after the game, Scott McTominay said, they were hurt by that and came out, and they actually looked like a side that were playing for Erik ten Hag. But Rory, we've got to obviously talk about Chelsea. What was your assessment of that display?
I think you're right to bring up Manchester United, though. We have to acknowledge quite how good they were, considering what's going on at that club. Like, I think that Chelsea were abysmal, appalling, totally unacceptable. I think that heads should roll for it. It's that kind of performance. It is everything that you will not accept from your football team. They didn't have any of the characteristics that you demand, and that's not about skill or silk or ability. It's about effort and heart and tenacity and fight, and we were lacking in it all. But think about what Manchester United... to understand how bad Chelsea were, you have to kind of understand who Manchester United are at the moment. They are a club in disarray. They're a club in total and utter disarray.
Well, just to say that they are now, I don't quite know how, but they're 3 points off Man City now.
Yes, I do understand that, but that's where they sit in the league. But I don't think that is indicative of who they are.
Yeah.
I don't think it tells you about who they are. Look, you can't move now. You look left, right, centre. You cannot move for column inches over the past month of Manchester United being totally disjointed, full of infighting. You've got the players who don't like the manager. You've got the manager who's fallen out with some of the players. You've got players ostracised. You've got good players sitting on the bench. You've got the club up for sale. You've got journalists banned. Everything's going wrong for that club. It's a club in disarray. And yet they battered us. Do you know what a fair scoreline would have been? This isn't even an exaggeration. Do you know what it should have been?
Go on.
4-0. That's what it should have been. It was a 4-0 game. Chelsea scored a goal through nothing more, nothing tactical.
I can't argue with you here.
Chelsea scored a goal through nothing tactical. We scored a goal simply through the sheer brilliance of Cole Palmer.
Yeah, and the only player, arguably, who was showing effort on the night and showed, as if he wanted to play in a Chelsea shirt and play for the badge. And for you, did any of the other players show that?
No.
Last
Every
night?
single player should hang his head in shame. Every single player. And Pochettino's not exempt here.
Well, I was going to say, where does this leave Pochettino for you? You've never really liked Pochettino, haven't you? And thing is, right, that's, in your words, mainly before was because of the whole Spurs link and things like that. Fine. But that doesn't let's be honest, that doesn't affect his ability as a manager. And you were always waiting to pass judgment on that. I remember before the season started, you were saying, look, I like the way that he answers questions and he's turned up in a suit and he looks like a Chelsea manager. Now that we're quite a few games in to this season, and given the performance last night, give me your full assessment of him as the Chelsea manager.
I think he's appalling. I think he's getting away with it, and I don't understand why it's not being discussed. I appreciate that you've brought it up here, but I feel like it's us discussing it. I think it's almost like it's almost a closed, almost secret, clandestine little conversation about Pochettino. I don't think it's being discussed in the way that it should be. I would hazard a guess that it's not even being discussed on talkSPORT. I don't think people are exploring.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think he's getting away with it, like you say?
I think there are a few reasons. I think people, sometimes things are a given. Mauricio Pochettino is a good manager. That's almost not contested. It's just what it is. It's just he is a good manager, and therefore whatever's going wrong at Chelsea won't be his fault, because he's seen, because of his time at Tottenham, his favourable qualities. I think the press like him. He is seen in a positive light. There's also, I think it's always very important to acknowledge that there are favoured. People need to be employed. And if you write about Chelsea on a regular basis, you need a link to Chelsea. You need the comms officer at Chelsea to like you. Therefore, you have to say things that are favourable to that club. Okay. I don't have that. I think that he's getting away with it massively. So the Geezer's won two wins out of 8 at home. That's sackable in itself.
Yeah.
Like Scolari was never that bad. Villa's, but I know we're a different club these days, but he's won 2 out of 8 at home. Like, we're 10th in the league.
What is it, do you think, that he is getting wrong, though? Like, because you said that, but just to say, like, obviously, and I think you're right, it's not talked about enough. And as you say, he just seems to go under the radar, especially when you think about, the fact that Ange Postecoglou's come in at Tottenham, rebuilt it. Unai Emery has taken Villa from
Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe, and it just hasn't happened for Poch at Chelsea. When arguably, a lot of those players have more talent than the ones that were taken over in those clubs.
Well, whatever you think about Chelsea, whatever you think of the players, whatever you think of the recruitment strategy, or whatever you think about Bowley, we're better than 10th. We shouldn't be sitting 10th in the league. We should be winning more than 2 home games.
So sorry, I interrupted you there, but go on. What is it about Pochettino at the moment?
I think he's getting everything wrong. I genuinely do. Let's juxtapose him and Ten Hag, right? It's a perfect day to do it. Chelsea have just played Man United. Put those two together and have a look. Look at Chelsea's team selection. We've got Levi Colwill playing left back. We've got our left back, Cucurella, playing right back and getting done, by the way. That's setting you up for disaster in itself, isn't it? Colwill didn't have a good game. Colwill's playing left back. He's not a left back. We're playing players out of position. We've got Reece James on the bench. So I'd say personnel is wrong. Team selection is wrong. I think that if you then look at the things that are like less tangible, so what Ten Hag has done really well, let's use a case study of Scott McTominay. Again, perfect timing. He didn't want Scott McTominay. He wanted Scott McTominay to go to either West Ham United or Bayern Munich, weirdly, at one point. Neither would pay the 40 million quid. So he lumbered with him. He improves him. He has a personal improvement. He elevates the performances of the player. Genuinely, not one Chelsea player has improved under Pochettino. If anything, they've regressed. And what I want to see him do, this is the huge difference with Ten Hag. Ten Hag's brave, He's brave, he's bold, he makes big, decisive moves, and sometimes he pays the price for them. But he's not a coward. Think about, there were loads of examples of this, by the way. When Harry Maguire was his centre-half when he landed at the club? The easiest thing for Ten Hag to have done would have been to hide behind Harry Maguire. You go, look, he's the 80 million quid player, he's the club captain, I don't rate him, but he's I've got to play him, what can I do? He didn't do that, he made it his problem. He got him out, brought in Lisandro Martinez. Suddenly, it's his man. So if it doesn't work, it's on his shoulders. That's brave, right? Stripping Maguire of the captaincy, big, brave decision. Massive statement last night, by the way. Dropping Rashford from the starting lineup. And then it works. You look at the two wingers that were playing. Anthony had one of the best games I've ever seen him have for Manchester United, and Garnacho's unplayable.
Maguire, by the way, player of the month in November.
Maguire played really well as well. So there are loads of examples of Ten Hag being relevant. What's Pochettino done? What's he do? What's changed? What's the difference between this Chelsea team and Potter's Chelsea team? This Chelsea team and Lampard's Chelsea team?
Yeah.
This Chelsea team
has
and
not been
Bruno.
a marked improvement at all. It's funny, isn't it? Because I do feel that people, listening into this might also say, look, a lot of this, Rory, does stem from that ridiculous transfer policy they've had, no players over 25, which still just baffles me completely. You've then got the likes of, Sterling, at least he's trying to have a good season, he's doing his best, but there's only so much he can do as one of the senior players. And then Thiago Silva, 39, 40 years of age, having to be the kind of mainstay at the back. And eventually that's going to wear him down, as we've seen in some of the recent performances.
You're correct. Pochettino has been set up to fail, right? The players that have been brought in aren't for the furtherance of the club. It isn't to elevate Chelsea in the league. The strategy is to extract money out of Chelsea, to make Chelsea a more valuable asset. That's what they're trying to do. As I said, he's been set up to fail, but not this badly.
Yeah.
I don't think that Chelsea should be winning the league, but I do think that Chelsea should be sitting in the top half of the league. Yeah. I don't think that Chelsea should be winning every game, but I do think we should be beating a very beatable Manchester United team.
Do you know what it is? At the moment, Rory, they just feel like a complete pushover as a team, as a club. They feel like a team that have no fear factor about them at all. There was a guy on the sports bar last night on talkSPORT as well after the game who was saying exactly what you were saying about the spirit and the heart and the fight. And I do think, though, that the fact you bring in all of those inexperienced players does add to that, because I feel like when you're a younger player, it's easier to hide, isn't it? It's easier
we're weak.
Do
you know what we are? We're a flaccid team. We're like weak. We're beatable. We really are. We if you think about our two midfielders. Right, it's £250 million. Quarter of a billion. And they're being done by McTominay and Amrabat. Done.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous recruitment, but it's also ridiculous management, because, look, I've never seen Enzo Fernandez have a good game. Or if I have, you can count him on one hand and have fingers to spare, right? He's not been a good player. I don't really know what he's good at. I don't, honestly, he's another one. You know how I said Pochettino gets away with it because people say he's good? Enzo Fernandez is the same. If Endo Fernandez was John Joe Shelby, people go get him out of the team. And he is John Joe Shelby. And he is John Joe Shelby.
I will
and
not
people
have any stick given to John Joe Shelby.
What I'm saying is, though, because he won a World Cup, because Lionel Messi gave him an endorsement, because he scored that goal against Mexico, and because I think there is a glamour attached to Enzo Fernandez, people think he's very good. He isn't.
Maybe he's not.
He's not.
Maybe he's not.
He's not. Moises Caicedo. He's not a good player.
Well, there we go. I mean, that's what happens when you have this transfer policy, when you're signing players off purple patches or one good season. It's not going to work, is it? This is The Social on talkSPORT 2. Next up, we're going to look at last night's other big game. Aston Villa, who are on fire at the moment, made it 14 home wins in a row.